Hi, it's Eric Daly of the Molt Lumber Group, and here's what you need to know if you're a retirement plan sponsor for the week ended Friday, May the 8th of 2026. Recently the Department of Labor, back on March the 30th of this year, issued their investment selection rule. The rule was in some ways a response to the executive order from the president trying to expand investment availability inside defined contribution plans. While it didn't specifically speak to those issues, what it did was create a broad framework through which all investment products, including those that might have up to this point been considered an alternative, should be evaluated for inclusion in a plan. That 6-factor framework is performance, fees, valuation, liquidity, performance benchmarks, and complexity. Fundamentally, I think very similar to how investment products have and should be viewed by professional investment practitioners and have been for some period of time. What this particular rule does not is create a safe harbor somehow from a litigation perspective for plan sponsors. What it does is create kind of a minimum threshold, presuming that the rule eventually is passed, as we presume it will, in largely a similar fashion to the one that's been drafted. What I think it helps also articulate is this continuing pressure that we spoke about in our paper called Beyond the Perimeter, wherein retirement plan fiduciaries are increasingly being asked to look at investment products that are beyond the perimeter of what had previously been considered reasonably well-regulated retail investment products, be they 1940 Acts or products that are similar to that. Whether it's collective investment trusts, private equity, private credit, hedge funds, whether it is cryptocurrency. Increasingly, we're seeing the financial services marketplace move and push retirement plan sponsors in those directions. The challenge is in each of those areas, what you're getting a reduced level of is federal oversight and scrutiny of those investment products, which is and may be perfectly appropriate, but it does create more of a burden operationally on retirement plan fiduciaries, because if those protections ultimately are violated outside the framework of the 1940 Act, ultimately the person left holding the bag will be A, clearly the participants who are disadvantaged, but B, from a litigation perspective, the plan fiduciaries that allowed it to happen. So as plan sponsors begin going through this process of looking at the new 6-factor rule, looking at their investment menus and trying to determine where they want to be on that continuum from low risk to potentially higher risk, I think it's important to take a step back and look at directionally where we're headed and what ultimately is required of plan sponsors who choose to, again, move their defined contribution plans outside of that more typical perimeter.